So we want to multiply, if possible, these two matrices D times B, right? Now remember, the order is important, right? So the first thing that I like to do is just, well, check the dimensions, right? We want to make sure that these matrices can be multiplied together. So we know that D here, right? D is a 3 by 3 matrix. It has 3 rows and 3 columns. And matrix B is a 3 by 2 matrix, right? It has 3 rows and 2 columns. And how do we know if these matrices can be multiplied together, right? We have to compare these two numbers, okay? The number of columns in D and the number of rows in B. And notice these are the same, right? So in this case, yes, we can multiply these together. And the resulting matrix, right, the resulting matrix should be, in this case, a 3 by 2 matrix, right? So we know that our final matrix, whatever it is, should have 3 rows and 2 columns, okay? So what I like to do is I like to just write it out, right? So think about this, right? We know that we are going to end up with 3 rows and 2 columns, okay? So let's call this the A11 entry, right? The first row, first column. So what does that mean? Right? It means we need the first row in D, right? The first row in D and the first column in B, right? So that's what essentially what this A11 should represent, okay? So A11 then, right, we should get the first row in D. Notice the first row has 3 entries. And notice in B, right, the first column has 3 entries as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply the corresponding entries together, okay? So -1 times 2 plus 4 times 5 plus 3 times 3, right? So -2 plus 20 plus 9, right? That's going to give us 27. So that should be the first entry in our product, right? The first row, first column of our answer should have a 27 as the first entry. And what about this one here, right? A12, right? First row, second column. So what does that mean? It means we need the first row of D. Okay, remember, D comes first, right? The first row of D and the second column of B, right? So A12 then, right, should be what? We need the -1 times -4. Okay? We need the 4 times the 1, and then 3 times the 3 here. Okay? So 4 plus 4 plus 9 here gives us a positive 17, right? So this entry should be positive 17. What about this one? This is the second row, first column, right? So to get the second row, first column here of our product matrix, right, we need the second row of D, right? So we need the second row of D and the first row of B here, okay? So to get A21, right, we want the second row of D and the first row in B, right? So remember, there's 3 entries here, there's 3 entries here. We're going to multiply the corresponding entries together, right? So we get 8 times 2 plus -1 times 5 plus 2 times 3, right? So 16 plus -5 plus 6, okay? What does that give us? That gives us 17, right? So that should be our entry here. And what about this one? This is A22, right? The second row, second column of our product matrix here. So what does that mean? We need the second row of D and the second column of B here, right? So A22, we want to multiply these 3 numbers, right, together with these 3 numbers, okay, and then add those results, right? So what do we get? We get 8 times -4. Okay. We get -1 times 1. And we get 2 times 3 here, right? So we get -32 plus -1 plus 6. Okay. That should give us a -27 here, right? So this will be this entry here, which is -27. So we need A31, right, which would be the third column of D, right, or the third row of D, right, and the first column of B here, right? So I'm sort of running out of space, so let's do it up here, right? A31. So the third row of D and the first column of B, right? So 0 times 2, 4 times 5, 3 times 3, right? So 0 plus 20 plus 9 gives us 29 here. And finally, This is A3, 2, right? The third row and second column of our product matrix here. So what does that mean? It means similarly we need the third row of the first matrix, right? We need the third row of D and the second column of B, right? So 0 times -4, 4 times 1, 3 times 3 here. Right? This is just 0, so 4 plus 9 gives us 13. Okay? So this is the matrix that we get once we multiply D times B.